The Tree Who Dreamed of the Sea, Chapter 6. The Trick. Yes, said the river, rapids are terrible for trees. Are you all right? But Leafy didn't answer at first. He lay on his back in the deep, smooth, flowing water and felt all the wounds he had received in a few terrible minutes. Not one but 3 branches were gone. Where and when had he lost the other 2? Finally, Leafy asked the river, "Why didn't you warn me about the rapids?" "What? But that would have ruined your happiness in the easy part of the trip at the beginning," said the river. "But if I'd known beforehand," said Leafy. "And what good would that have done you?" asked the river gently. "Would the rapids have been less terrible? Would you have fewer broken branches now?" "No, I guess not," admitted Leafy. "Look, Leafy," his friend continued, "you could still be standing safe and whole up there in the forest where you grew up. Instead, you chose to travel. You chose adventure. And sometimes there is danger waiting along that path." "Do you mean there are more rapids downstream?" asked Leafy, with alarm. "Any big river is going to have more than one set of rapids," said the river to his friend. "What, more rapids?" said Leafy. "How many? How far until the next ones?" "Listen, Leafy. In any river there are nice, easy, beautiful stretches. But there are also tough parts, terrible parts. That's life. Things go from good to bad and then back again, as you've already seen. The only good way to deal with the rapids ahead is not to think about them at all." "Well, how can I not think about what has just happened to me?" asked Leafy. "It was awful." "Any adventure has good and bad parts, Leafy. Just keep thinking about the good parts. That's the only smart way to travel the river. Every time you think about a bad or painful experience, you just live it all over again. I've had trees who, after their first rapids, could never stop thinking about them. So they missed every bit of beauty and happiness during all the rest of the trip because of that." "But the rapids are real and they're terrible," said Leafy. "But they're only a small part of a long voyage, most of which is peaceful and very beautiful," said the river. "The happiest travelers are those who remember that and spend their time thinking of and reliving the good parts, the beautiful parts, not the worst parts." "Even when they're in the rapids?" asked Leafy. "Especially when they're in the rapids," said the river. "That's precisely when you need most to remember the beautiful times, to relive them again. That's what your memory is for, Leafy." "Okay, I'll try it," said Leafy. Good. You've lost a lot of branches, said the river, and you're about to lose a few more because there's a big set of rapids coming up just around the next bend. Listen. Leafy heard the distant roar of a new set of rapids, and then he felt the river begin to quicken his pace again. He just had time to hear the river reminding him, "Now remember, this time think of the good parts." And then it was all happening again, smashing into huge rocks, then hitting bottom again, then flying, and more limbs being ripped from his trunk. While all this was happening, Leafy tried to keep his mind on the good parts of the journey, on the beautiful meadows he had seen, the stately forests, the wonderful skies, the fields of flowers, and all those handsome snow-capped mountains. Finally, the roaring of the water subsided. My, said Leafy. Are you all right? Asked the river. River, it worked, cried Leafy. I did what you said, and it was much easier this time. If you just keep thinking about the good parts, the bad parts aren't nearly as bad. The river, hearing Leafy's good thoughts, murmured, Very good, Leafy. You're a good learner. Well, that's because you're such a good teacher, said Leafy, and soon they were both laughing so happily that Leafy had completely forgotten about the rapids he'd just gone through, and even those which might still lie ahead of him. End of chapter 6.